Hi, and welcome back to Studio Atlanta. I'm Daniel Martin, and today I just want to talk a little bit about cameras. We just got a new camera called the Canon EOS RP. It's a mirrorless camera, very small, very lightweight. In fact, I think it's about a pound less. The body is about a pound less than my camera that I use most of the time, which is my Canon 6D. I'm very much a Canon person. I pretty much have always been a Canon person. I had a Minolta for about 2 weeks when I first started back in the 80s, and I switched to Canon, and I've never gone back. I just don't think you can beat Canon's color and the reliability of their cameras. And I know there's an argument for Nikon. People love the Nikon lenses, but we did camera repair at our 1 hour lab that we had, and we saw about 2-to-1 repair jobs, Nikon versus Canon. So I'm very happy to be a Canon. I'm also a Canon professional. So now, as much as I love Canon, we had a 24-to-105 lens. And it's the only Canon lens we've ever had that broke on us. So when I replaced it, I went with the Sigma 24-to-105 art lens. It's f4 all the way 24-to-105. And the color of this lens is amazing. I think it blows the Canon lens out of the water, as much as it hurts me to say that. This Sigma 24-to-105, it's about $300-400 cheaper brand new than the Canon 24-to-105. But I highly recommend this Sigma lens. It's a great range for shooting weddings. It's a great range when you want 4-to-105. You can zoom in, you can go wide, whatever you need to do, and then you've got the constant f4 through it. This weekend will be the first weekend that we won't shoot the entire wedding with it. We're going to shoot part of the wedding with the Canon EOS RP. It's very lightweight, has a screen that flips around, and it's a really cool screen. I've got a few issues with it that I'm going to see how it works out during the wedding. The focusing is slow to move in between how you focus. So we'll see if that's just something I need to get used to, or if it's the problem and we don't like it. The camera, it came with a lens. It's 24-to-105 on it, but it is a lens that is at f4 on the low end, but at 105 it goes to 7.1, and that's really not quite enough. The lens is not really fast enough to shoot a wedding with that. 7.1 is just too much. You would have to use a flash all the time with that, unless you crank up your ISO to just a ridiculous amount, which I don't like to do. So one thing I love about the RP is this adapter. I got this one for 50 bucks. I can put it on my Canon EOS RP. The new R series Canons use R lenses, a whole new line of Canon lenses. But with this little $49 adapter, it's not made by Canon. It's made by a third party. I think the Canon one is $100. But I got this one for 50, and I put it on your RP, and you can use all of your Canon lenses that you've used forever on your regular DSLR, and that is a big reason to get one. You don't have to buy all new lenses. It's super in that effect, so I'm looking forward to seeing what we can do with it at the wedding. Now I've shot for years with the Canon 6D, which is a full frame. Most full frames are $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, depending on which one you get. That's one thing that caught my eye about this Canon RP. It is a full frame camera, and I got it used for $825, and I think retails for $999. And to be able to get a full frame camera for under $1,000 is unheard of. In fact, it's just my opinion, but I believe when Canon first put this out, they were marketing it to more of the videography guys, because it does a lot of video, does pretty well. It does have a few issues with 4K, but for that price. But to be able to get a camera with a full frame lens is for less than $1,000 is absolutely worth it, even if it has a few minor flaws that you have to get used to. And I will talk next week about how it comes out at the wedding. I'll post some pictures of how it looks. It gets great reviews. It's even a 26 megapixel camera compared to my 20 megapixel Canon 6D. Now, megapixels is not everything it's made out to be. People are like, I got a 54 megapixel camera and 100 megapixel camera, whatever. If you get your lighting right and you know what you're doing, you can do this just fine with 26 or 20 or even 18. I shot weddings years and years ago with a Canon 30D, and I believe it's only 8 megapixels. I might be wrong on that, but it's somewhere around 8, which, an iPhone now is up to, I believe, 12 to 14 megapixels. But really, megapixels is not everything that counts. Lenses, like you can shoot with an iPhone and get a great shot, but if you were to shoot the same picture with a full frame Canon or even a crop sensor Canon, you're just not going to get the quality from an iPhone that you can get from a DSLR or a mirrorless camera. The one issue that I think is going to give me a problem with this RP at the wedding is I like to put on a battery grip. This one, as you can tell, it doesn't have a battery grip. It only holds one battery at a time. this Canon 6D, I've got the battery grip on the bottom, so it holds 2 batteries. And I can get over 1,000 shots at a wedding with this camera before the batteries even think about going dead. This one, from what I've noticed this week, I'm around 200 to 250 shots, which is an issue. And the big issue is if I put a battery pack on it, the problem is they've got the memory card and the battery right here. So I'll have to take the battery grip off every time to change the memory card or replace the battery. And that's really one downfall I don't really care for. But for the price, we're going to try it out and see how it does. It's what I've seen what pictures I've seen with it so far look fantastic. But you don't have to have the highest end Canon they make, the Canon 5D Mark IV. It's a great camera, but it's I don't know what it is now. I think you can probably get one for around $2,500. But I can take my 6D and do basically everything that it will do. But that's my style of shooting. I'm a wedding photographer and I shoot models and families. If I was shooting sports, I would need to be able to shoot maybe 10, 12 frames a second, where neither one of these cameras are going to shoot that fast. But it kind of just depends on what you're doing. But for mine, I don't need to shoot 10 frames a second. I don't even need 5 frames a second. But again, if you're starting out and just getting into wedding photography, don't rush out and buy the most expensive camera body you can. The lenses that you get are going to be way more important than the camera body, just way more important. Camera bodies are going to lose value. In 3 years, it'll be worth a third or fourth of what it was. Or if you get a good Canon L series lens, it's going to hold its value. I know they're 24 to 70. I think it's right around $2,000. If you can find one of those 3 years old, it's still going to be right at about $1,600, $1,700. It's been well taken care of because they hold their value and they're excellent lenses. They last forever. When I say Canon L, that is what Canon calls their pro line of lenses. It's Canon L. You can tell, well, not on that lens, I didn't replace it, but they have a red marker going around the end of the lens on most of them, not all of them, but that'll let you know that it's a Canon Pro lens. But when we first started shooting weddings, when we first started shooting digital weddings, at first we were shooting 35 millimeter back in the 80s, and then the medium format came in, and of course we went with Mamiya cameras then. Canon didn't make the medium format cameras. And then when digital came out, we switched back to Canon, and I've been with them since. It's just amazing. Their cameras just last. They just last and last. I don't know how many shots I've taken on my 30D or my 50D, and those are both crop sensor lenses. They're not even full frame sensor lenses. Now, if you're shooting with a Canon 50D with a crop sensor, or with any crop sensor, as a matter of fact, you will get more grain with a higher ISO. So if you're shooting 1600 with a crop sensor versus 1600 with a full frame sensor, you're going to see a big difference in low light. Crop sensor does have its advantage, because if you've got a 24 to 105 lens on it, I believe it's a 1.6 adjustment to your lens. So technically you'd be shooting with, say, right around a 36 to a 150. You can't go as wide with the crop sensors. They also have a line of lenses called EFS lenses. Those only fit on the crop sensor cameras, like the Canon 50D, 30D, even I believe they've got a Canon 90D now, and it's an excellent camera. I think it's around 30 megapixels, but still the crop sensor is not going to give you the quality of even this, $800 used full frame Canon EOS RP. So the most important thing to remember is, get a good camera body. I'm not saying go buy a really cheap camera body, but if you got the money, get a Canon 50D or a 60D. I've got a 60D also. It's a great camera. And invest your money in lenses. And then as you go and you start making more and more money, then you could start switching to more different camera bodies if you need to. It doesn't hurt to upgrade. It's just sometimes for what you're doing, it's overkill. Like I was talking about the frames per second a while ago, I don't have a need to shoot 10 frames a second. And some of the newer cameras just shoot astronomical amount of frames per second. That's just not something I need, so I don't need to waste my money on that. But we will shoot our wedding this weekend. I'm going to shoot some of the reception shots with this. I may shoot a few ceremony shots with it during the ceremony. See how it does under low light. The wedding, I believe, is going to be in a barn, so we will see how the light looks. And I will let you know in the next video. I'll even post some pictures and show you the difference. Y'all have a good day, and if you don't mind, click subscribe down at the bottom. We much appreciate it. Thank you.